Hello and welcome to the second episode of Parliamentary PC. In the first episode, I promised you that I would, besides talking about the bills that are being introduced, I will also speak about some interesting zero hours that MPs bring to the table. And usually, zero hours concern the citizens of this country, could be issues pending in their constituencies. But these are very interesting subjects that most parliamentarians, if their name is balloted, bring to the table and important conversations that happen. The second most important is the question hour, where I will speak about some important questions that were answered on the floor of the House and perhaps some unstarred questions which are not answered on the floor of the House, but they come as a written response by the minister. Probably highlight some of those as well. Then, of course, during the business hours, the bill that is to be introduced on that particular day and the time allotted to discuss that bill. Unfortunately, we've not seen the Parliament function for the past 4 days. There has been a total breakdown of conversation between the Treasury benches and the opposition benches. The Treasury benches have been repeatedly saying, and they would want you to believe, that they want to have a discussion on NEET issues. What they won't tell you, and they've also said that they will allot as many hours as the opposition wants and they will discuss it at length, etc. The discussion needs to begin with NEET paper leak. That is absolutely fine. And that is what they're telling you repeatedly. But what they won't tell you is this conversation, this discussion that they are proposing comes with no action attached. As in, that we may have a discussion, both sides will have a discussion, but it does not in any way guarantee the resignation of the education minister, which is the biggest ask of the students of this country. They're not talking about any kind of reforms that you can expect from them. So what you will get is a whole lot of several hours allotted to it, both sides having a conversation, a whole lot of whataboutery, a whole lot of word salad, a whole lot of deflections, a whole lot of distractions. What you will not get is what you're seeking. And of course, the whataboutery could lead to Jawaharlal Nehru ji, it could lead to Indira Gandhi ji, it could lead to the Mughal era, it could lead to the Britishers, it could lead to just about anything. But what it won't lead to is what you're seeking. And that is what is important. The students of NEET who are protesting in various parts of the country today are asking for three things. They never asked for a confrontation, but they got a confrontation. They saw pellet guns being used first time ever on the streets of Delhi. They saw batons, they saw lathi charges happen, they saw tear gas shells being fired at them. These kids range from 16 years of age to perhaps 27 years of age. Unfortunately, there has been no conversation. There has been confrontation, but no conversation is what they're seeking. Consultation is what they're seeking. What they're also seeking is the resignation of education minister. Of course, many are going on saying, making it about why are you asking for resignation of education minister? Why is it? And then it will force the government to start asking for resignations. That's not true. That's absolutely an incorrect premise to defend the government. What the education minister's resignation would signal that the government is truly of the people, for the people, and by the people, and that it is sensitive to what people expect of them and is sensitive to their wishes. And it would also bring credibility to their governance and give them a moral high ground that people expect them to live by. Unfortunately, they're not doing that. What's the third ask of them, of these students? The third ask is get into a consultation with us, bring in the examination reforms that we need, end the paper mafia leak. There have been enough and more paper leaks over the decade and a half. 152 paper leaks, 0 convictions, 7.5 crore students impacted by it. It could be state-wise, it could be a subject matter of the state. However, the mafia links are all centered around the same grouping that is involved in leaking national exams. Having said that, the Prime Minister today early morning put out an ex-post. And in his ex-post, the Prime Minister spoke about the students, of course, because he's realizing that it is not coming down. The people are not buying the words that are being sold to them and asking them to end their protests. They've tried the anti-national route, they've tried the deep state route, they've tried the elements that are against India there in that protest, that it's not the students, it's just about somebody else who's taken over, all of these. But today the Prime Minister in his early morning expo said, nothing is more important than the welfare and future of our youth. We have decided to set up fast-track courts to ensure swift and stringent action against those involved in paper leaks. I have directed the concerned authorities and officials to take all necessary steps in this regard. This continues a series of steps for safeguarding the interests of students. Those who try to harm the future of our youth will not be spared. However, these words again run thin or are not something that people would believe easily. I'll tell you why. Because over the past 3 years, the Prime Minister has been saying the same things. The government has been speaking the same words. The words being, the paper leak mafia will be held accountable and punished. This is 2023. Those who have played with the future of young people will not be spared. Issues such as paper leaks, which worried the country's youth, have been dealt with very strictly. This is November 9, 2023. This is coming from Mahesh Perry. He has put out this tweet in response to what the Prime Minister has tweeted. He happens to be someone who's very respected in the education circles. Issues such as paper leaks will be dealt with strictly. April 21st, 24, the government has now begun taking action against the paper leak mafia. Again, the same words, the government is extremely serious about stopping paper leaks and action is being taken on a war footing. Those who endanger students' future will not be spared. Again, the same words, the same commitments. Action missing. So here's the thing. I'm hoping that there would be some accountability that happens sooner rather than later, and the Parliament functions, because there are a lot of bills which are pending, and I want to talk to you about them. I want to explain to you in depth what these bills are about. However, once the Parliament functions, I'll get the opportunity to do so. Till the Parliament doesn't start functioning normally, I will keep updating you on things that are happening in the Parliament and what to look forward to and what not to look forward to, and be aware, politically aware citizens of this country. Until then, subscribe to the channel, press that alarm bell so that you get an alarm for every update once I put up some new content, as well as share this video so that there are many more people who can understand what really is happening in the Parliament. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.